Welcome to Coach Little C's Rockpile College Football Playoff Selection and my picks for New Year's Eve. We'll start with Miami and Ohio State, and then we'll move on to New Year's Day and see who will punch their ticket and play on in the college football playoff. The first game up, I want to start with Miami and Ohio State. This is a game where I think it's disrespectful to Miami, number one, to be a 9.5 point dog in this game. To me, Miami doesn't play like an ACC team. I said this a few years ago, 3 years ago, when Michigan won the national championship. Michigan was built from the inside out. And I really think that this Miami team is built from the inside out. Now, I know people are going to say, well, they played in the ACC. They didn't belong in. Well, they got in, and I think they're a tough out. Am I saying that Ohio State's going to beat Miami? I'll give you my pick in just a little bit. But I think it's going to come down to a few things for Miami and Ohio State. I think it's going to be who can win in the trenches. Ohio State this year in 2 games that they've struggled, low-scoring games, opening game against Texas, who was built inside out, tough in the trenches. Now, I know Texas this season didn't go the way that they wanted it to go, but it was a tough opening game for the Buckeyes. And then I think the Indiana game, right? I think Julian Sain was running for his life. He got sacked a few times. He threw the interception, played well enough to win the game. I thought that was really the first time we saw Ohio State struggle a little bit in the trenches. Very good game. Maybe they'll play each other again for the national championship. Miami against Texas A&M. And I really thought that Texas A&M, I knew it was going to be a low-scoring game because I said to myself, A&M's really good inside out too. 2 really good defenses, 2 physical defenses. Which team can score and put up some points? It was like the first team to 10 might have won that game. And Miami was fortunate enough to win that game on the road at Texas A&M, which is a tough place to play. 7 sacks in that game for Miami, 9 tackles for a loss. Really big. Now, Carson Beck didn't really play that great. Carson Beck was only 14 of 20 for a little over 100 yards. He had the 1 touchdown. Really struggled to push the ball downfield. I think he was only like 2 of 7 or 2 of 8 in passes that were over 10 yards. Now, Miami comes in averaging 32 points a game, and they're 29th in scoring offense in the country, but that Buckeye defense is one of the best in the country, only giving up about 8 points a game, and they haven't allowed more than 16 points in a game all season. Of course, the 16 was the Indiana in the Big Ten title game. Now, flip the script, Miami, for them, Carson Beck's got to play really well. Carson Beck's got to look like the Carson Beck he did at Georgia. At times this year, he looked really well, thrown for 80% completion. He doesn't turn it over much. If he plays well, he's been in big games in the SEC. The environment's not going to be too much for him. I think the environment, he's been used to that. I think he played okay against A&M, didn't have to do too much because defensively they were that good. Whatever team can win the turnover battle. I think this will be a game. I think it's going to be a good game. I think this is going to be one of the better games that we'll see in the playoffs. What do I think as far as a prediction for this game? People are going to probably say you're a Michigan guy. I'm going with Miami. I think Miami finds a way as a 9.5 point dog and wins this game. Now, could I see Ohio State absolutely clobbered Miami? Yes. I'm just saying I think this will be a game that's going to be won in the trenches, and I think Miami is built like a Big Ten team, and I think Miami finds a way. Ryan Day's going to call plays for Ohio State. Brian Hartline, the OC that's called plays all year, who took the head job at South Florida, little bit of a distraction. I don't think Hartline really called a great game in the Big Ten title game. So Ryan Day's going to take over. This offense won't lose a beat. Ryan Day's called plays for this team for many years, so I don't think they're going to lose a beat. I just think Miami, they got in. They're one of those teams where it was Ohio State last year. They got in. Nobody wanted to see Ohio State last year. I picked Miami to beat Texas A&M, and I'm going to pick Miami again to beat Ohio State. Moving on to the Orange Bowl. This could relatively be the best game of the playoff, at least for this week. So this will be the New Year's Day. This will be the opening game of New Year's Day. This will be in the Orange Bowl. I think Oregon's good enough to win the whole thing. And then again, any of these teams are probably good enough to win it all. But I think Oregon, people are kind of forgetting about them because Their loss was to Indiana, who I still think this year in college football, that's the best win in college football, is when Indiana went on the road to Eugene and beat the Ducks 30-20. I think Oregon against Texas Tech is a really tough matchup for Texas Tech. And believe me when I tell you, I love Bailey and I love the Rodriguez kid, the two linebackers, which, by the way, I thought Rodriguez should have been invited to the Downtown Athletic Club in New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. I think he got screwed royally out of being. I'm not saying he would have won it, but I think he should have been invited. One thing Texas Tech hasn't seen all year, they haven't seen the speed that Oregon's going to bring, and they have not seen the physicality that Oregon is going to bring now. They also haven't seen a kid like Dante Moore, who's thrown for 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns. One thing I do think Texas Tech presents, obviously, as my dad always says, offense wins games, defense wins championships. I do think this Texas Tech defense is that good and can carry them to a national championship. But offensively, they run a lot of different sets, a lot of unbalanced sets. They kind of run that go-go offense that's out there in college football. They're going to play fast. They're going to try to get people in space. They're going to try to find, the tough matchups downfield. A lot of it will depend on how Cameron Dickey, the running back, if he can run the football against this Oregon front, which is really, really good. Oregon, 11th in the nation in offense, over 468 yards a game. Defensively, top 10 in the nation as well. They're only giving up 271 yards. So I will say this. What's my prediction? I like the Ducks. I do. I like Oregon 24-16. The line I'm looking at was Texas Tech 2.5. I think the Ducks cover this one. I like the Ducks money line. This is a team you don't want to see. And if it's Oregon, Indiana, if Oregon gets by Alabama, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, don't be surprised if Oregon finds themselves playing for a national championship. I think they can. The next game up, we're going to roll with Alabama and Indiana. I don't know if I'm going to spend too much time on this one. Listen, I'm just going to say this. I think the story with Cignetti and Indiana has been unreal. Many people think they're America's team right now. And I've said this on a lot of different podcasts over the last 2 to 3 weeks. When's the last time you see a coach like Cignetti at Indiana turn down Penn State, Michigan, Auburn, Florida, all these big jobs? Cignetti turns it down and gets an extension at Indiana, who was the bottom, the barrel of college football for so many years. They were the laughingstock of college football. If you wanted an easy win, schedule Indiana. Well, in comes Kurt Cignetti, and all he says is, Google me, I win. All I do is win, Google me. And he has done that in the 2 years he's been at Indiana. And I'll say this about them. Francisco Mendoza, the quarterback, great kid, classy kid, deserved the Heisman Trophy. I know Diego Pave was the runner-up, and many thought that he had a shot to win it. I just think what Mendoza did all season, I think the run he had against Penn State on that throw at the end, that to seal the game for them, the win on the road at Indiana, or at Oregon, excuse me. And then I think what many people forget too is they beat a Fighting Illini team early in the year when Illinois was 9th in the country. They hung 63 up on the Fighting Illini, 63-10. And I love Brett Bielema. Not many people can smack him around because they're always physical. Indiana smacked them around. They were physically dominant over them. They dominated Oregon in the trenches. The Penn State, that was at Happy Valley. Terry Smith had those guys ready to play. And then they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. So I think Indiana, to me, is probably the clear favorite. I know people will say, well, they're the number one team in the country. They're the top seed. They should be the favorite. I just think there's not a lot of flaws. And flip side is Alabama. They simply can't run the football. Against Georgia, 25 carries for 28 yards, averaging 3.4 yards per carry on the season. And if they have to throw the ball, which that's all they've done in Kalen DeBoer's offense this year, is throw it, Indiana's only given up 7 touchdowns the entire season. Not one quarterback has thrown multiple touchdowns against Indiana. So for me, this is an easy one. Unless Alabama can find a way to run the football, give me Indiana. I don't even know if Alabama's going to score 19 points. I just thought it looked good. I mean, I could see this like 42-10 or a blowout. But I'm going to give Bama a little bit of credit just because I like Kalen DeBoer. I think at Indiana, 35-19, I think they'll punch their ticket for a rematch with Oregon to play for a national championship. And then last but not least, this is the second time we've seen Ole Miss and Georgia. This will be the Sugar Bowl. This will be the nightcap on New Year's Day. I can't wait. My favorite time of the year. I can't wait to watch Ohio State tomorrow night. And then New Year's Day, we'll be up at my mom and dad's. I'll be sitting in the couch in the living room watching football all day. I don't know if this game's going to be really close. I know they played back in October and Georgia won 43-35. And if you remember when Lane Kiffin was the head coach against Kirby Smart, I think Ole Miss scored like the first 5 or 6 times that they had the ball. The offense is really good. We don't know what Kejuan Lacey, the status of him is going to be for this game. He left the Tulane game with a left shoulder injury, so we don't know if he's going to be back or not. I believe he'll play. They'll find a way if he'll be 100%. Who knows? But he's arguably one of the best backs in the country. And then Trinidad Chambliss. He's thrown for over 3,000 yards. He lit up Kirby Smart in Georgia back in October in that game. So we'll see how he plays. Many think, including myself, I think it's his last game at Ole Miss before he makes the trip to join Lane Kiffin down in Baton Rouge. No way he stays at Ole Miss when he's got his offensive coordinator and Lane Kiffin down in Baton Rouge playing next year for LSU. But we'll see. And I think the flip side is Georgia, right? When they lost back in September to Alabama, all they've done is won nine in a row. They've only given up 29 points in their last 4 games. Gunnar Stockton, I think, is playing as good as anybody right now in the country. He's not turning the ball over. He's making really good decisions. And I think the key for this game is going to be really easy. Kirby Smart's got this defense playing like the Georgia defense that we've known Georgia to play over the last so many years. And this is going to be a game where I think Ole Miss needs Lane Kiffin there. Now, listen, could Ole Miss beat them? Listen, they got all the talent in the world to beat Georgia. It's going to depend defensively if Ole Miss can hold up. The last time they gave up over 500 yards of offense against Georgia, I don't think much will be different than the last time they played. Maybe Pete Golden's got a little bit more motivation this time for these guys to go play, and they find a way to pull this one off. Georgia's -6.5 in this game. And I will say this, I think this is really easy for me. Man, I like Georgia. And I think what's really scary, and I haven't really picked my national champion of this bracket yet. I did have Miami over A&M. I'm sure everybody probably 50-50, right? I mean, some people probably had Miami. Everybody had, Oregon. Everybody had JMU and Tulane, Ole Miss beating them. So I don't think there were really any surprises coming into this game. Now, maybe the Alabama-Oklahoma game, because I did have Oklahoma beating Alabama, so I was wrong on that pick. This Georgia team, if this defense plays really well, I think Georgia might be the favorite to win this whole entire thing. And again, credit Kirby Smart and that coaching staff. Defensively, they got better every week. So we'll see. I was just saying on another podcast, FanDuel, if you're out there and you want to play a parlay, I'll recap them. I got Miami with the upset on New Year's Eve over Ohio State. Again, I know the Ohio State homers are going to say, well, you don't like Ohio State. Last year I picked Ohio State to win the national championship. So I'm a Michigan guy, but I also am going to call it like it is. I just think this is a tough matchup for Ohio State. Now, I could be completely wrong, and Ohio State can absolutely clobber Miami. And I would say not surprised because they have all the talent in the world. I just think this game's going to be a lot closer than the 9.5. I think it's a slap in the face to Miami being a 9.5 point dog. So I like Miami in that game. I like the Ducks over Texas Tech. I like them 24-16. I do like Alabama in that game, and I also like Georgia in the nightcap. So those are the picks here. Make sure to tune in on Sunday morning. The Mohawk Valley Sports Watch returns. I'll be talking some high school basketball with 2 girl standout scorers. Haley Boswick of Rome Free Academy, who just scored her 1,000th point the other night. And I'll also be talking to Notre Dame's Ella Trinkus, who just scored her 2,000th point for Notre Dame, the Lady Jugglers. So make sure to tune in on Sunday morning. Follow me across all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. Follow me. I appreciate you tuning in to Coach C's Little C's college football picks on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.